Hello guys, today we will be talking about what if Naruto was trained by Hiruzen Sarutobi Part 1. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. Now let begin. Naruto Uzumaki was running down a back alley from his orphanage. The villagers were being unusually cold towards him today, and it was expected, for it was the 9th of October. A day when the people of Konoha missed their Yandere more than ever and remembered the heroic sacrifice he made in order to save the village by creating a Jinchuriki for the nine-tailed demon, the Kuwabai. And on this day, the villagers hated the almost 5-year-old blonde child with whisker marks more than ever, because he was the demon, only reincarnated this time in the form of an oh-so-innocent and beautiful child. Amazingly golden hair that spiked out everywhere, naturally making the child look mesmerizingly cute, the sparkling deep blue eyes that looked better than even the most perfectly cut sapphire, and the whisker marks that gave his face a foxy look that just made him sweeter than all the toffees in Konohagaku combined. Oh, to take the revenge on their village. It was a surprise yet the people never fell for his appearance, because they knew that inside he was still the cunning and evil demon, and many believed that one day he would rise. Sandaime had tolerated the blonde for so long in Konoha. He had even made a ridiculous law stating that nobody that made up the younger generation of the village were to know about Naruto's Jinchuriki status. Today was an especially bad day for Naruto, as he had pulled a particularly innovative prank in his orphanage manager's office that could not be connected to him anyway, but somehow the manager had figured out it was Naruto and he was kicked out of the orphanage for good. So the blonde child went to the only other place where he found refuge, a network of back alleys and hidden tunnels that were all over Konoha. Even those people that had superpowers and wore armor and black clothing did not venture into these places too often, so he was all alone for the moment. "Look who's here," said snide voices from behind Naruto, making him turn around, and he curled up in fear. There were two tall guys wearing black clothing and that weird symbol on their foreheads. But they had never hurt him before. In fact, there was a group of them that always followed him around whenever he ventured outside of his orphanage. Bolstered by this revelation, Naruto stood up slowly and asked, "What do you want?" He looked at the strangers with a slight frown on his face. "We just want to do something nice for you if you listen to us," said the other one, and he gave a small smile to the boy, as if reassuring him that there was nothing to worry about. "Really?" asked the blonde as he looked up at the two with eager and excited eyes. "Of course, but you have to listen to us and be good, or else we won't be able to do the nice thing," said the one that had spoken first. "What do I have to do? What do I have to do?" asked Naruto, just like any other eager child, ready to listen to these two. "Okay, we have to put this on you, and then you have to let us tie you up so that we can take you to the forest where that special gift is waiting," said one of them as he held out a very thick rope and a small thing that people put in other people's mouths so they could not talk. He had seen the super-powered people put it in bad people's mouths. Naruto would have agreed, but there was something odd about the way that these two looked at him, and he backed away a little bit. "And what if I don't listen to you?" asked the small boy, his mind already thinking of a way to get away from these two guys that really scared him. "Then," said one of them as they took a menacing step towards him, "we will have to use force." The one with the rope lunged at him and he jumped back before quickly scrambling up the wall behind him. Taking a quick moment to steady himself, the small boy started running along the thin top of the wall like he had seen those super people do in the places where they showed off their superpowers in groups of 4. He is thinking about training grounds where he spies on genin teams practicing their jutsus and skills. "Damn, that brat is fast," muttered one of them as they also jumped on the wall and started following the blonde blur that was already well ahead of them. "The hell," cursed the other one as he ran after Naruto. "I didn't know he could use chakra." "I don't think he is," said the man's partner as he ran behind the blonde, and it was all they could do to not lose the blonde from their sights. Then how is he running so damn fast, asked the other one. Remember, he is a demon. Of course he has more power than regular children, said the first, but he could already see that the boy in front of them was slowing down. But we are older and we have more stamina, see, he is getting tired. Naruto turned to see if his pursuers were still following him. Darn it, he muttered as he jumped down the wall before making a sharp right between two buildings, and then he was out in the crowded streets where people were setting up stalls and vendors were preparing their wares for the upcoming celebration the next day in memory of the fall of the Kyuubi at the hands of their gallant hero. He ran as he tried to lose his pursuers in the crowd. He dodged with expert ease or just went under the legs of people if there was enough room, and nobody paid him too much mind since there were children playing in the streets all the time during festivals and celebrations. The whisker-marked child, after making sure that he had finally lost the people that were following him, took another back alley and sat down panting heavily. He didn't understand why people did not like him. He had tried to be a good boy before, but people told him to leave them alone. And when he started doing pranks, the men at the orphanage gave him very severe punishments, while others who did the same things sometimes got off scot-free. And now people were looking to hurt him. Maybe I should tell that old man that the villagers are being bad, and then maybe he will punish them. For some reason those super-powered people always listens to him, thought Blonde as he put his head on his tucked-in knees to take a quick nap. Found you, said the same snide voice, and Naruto looked up to see the two people from before, and they were smiling evil smiles at him. We tried being nice, but now we will just get rid of you right here right now, snarled the man with the rope and lunged at him. Naruto had not time move, but suddenly an arm wrapped around him, and was moved out of harm's way. No you won't, said a cold voice, and both the men in front of them paled. Naruto looked up to see a man with spiky silver hair and a mask covering most of his face. Kakashi, stuttered one of them. You two are up to nothing, youthful, said a green man in a very loud and enthusiastic voice, landing behind them, and they both spun around. GG guy. Of course, said another man as he came from another alley. He looked like he was wearing a helmet that protected the sides of his face. TT Tenzo, choked out one of them, while the other one just crumpled on the ground as he had fainted. Can we get this over with? Asked a very pretty lady with curly black hair and red eyes. The second one fainted as well. Shugoi, amazing, breathed Naruto, making the pretty lady giggle. Just seeing these four made the two bad people faint. Let's go to Hokage-sama's office, this is very dire news, said silver-haired man, and green man and helmeted man picked up the two unconscious people. Then they all started flying over the rooftops towards the big red tower. At the Hokage's office, Hiruzen Sarutobi, one of the strongest shinobis in the village of Konohagakure, was sadly beaten by one enemy that no Hokage except for the Shotame and the Yandame had been able to beat, paperwork. But none of them had revealed their secrets. And why would they, sighed the Sandaime, that information would be worth more than all the money in his bank accounts combined. Not to mention that his daughter-in-law would be furious at him for not being able to take care of Konohamaru in the last week. That 2.5-year-old was more active than a jounin on an A-class mission. The Sandaime chuckled at the memory of his grandson slapping him so hard that he had nearly dropped the ika he was secretly reading in front of Anko, and the woman hated perverts just as much as she hated her ex-sensei. There was an urgent knock on the door to his office. Come in, called the Hokage as he sat back to address whoever was on the other side of the door. The door to his office opened and in came Kakashi, carrying a small blonde-haired child with him, followed by Guy and Tenzo, both of whom were carrying knocked-out ninjas, and finally Kurane, who looked at the unconscious ninjas with more than a little disgust on her face. Care to explain what happened? Asked the pipe-smoking man as he indicated towards the unconscious people wearily. Oi old man, said Naruto as he was put down by Kakashi. These bad super people tried to hurt me. Naruto pointed at the two unconscious Konoha ninjas on the floor. And those good super people came and saved me, he said, pointing towards the four that were looking at Naruto with bemused expressions. The Hokage's brows met in an angry frown as he looked up from the child towards the four adults that had come in with him. Yes, Hokage-sama, he is telling the truth, said Kakashi, and the others nodded in assent. How did that happen on your watch? Asked the Hokage, more curious than angry as to how two Chuyunins had slipped past the guard of an experienced ANBU captain, two Jounins, and a very talented Chuyunin. Well, we kind of lost him after he snuck out of the orphanage today, said Kakashi as he rubbed the back of his head nervously. Eh? Snuck out, echoed Naruto as looked at the four shinobis behind him like they were mad. I was thrown out of there for good, said Naruto as he turned back to stare at the wide-eyed Sandaime. Can you please explain how you lost a child that is not even 5 years old? He asked as he stood up and came around the desk. It was simple, said Naruto, making the four in the room go even paler than they already were. All I had to do was take a back alley that I knew that they did not know about, said the blonde proudly, making the Hokage frown once more. You knew there were people following you? Asked the Sandaime as he looked at Naruto with a curious gaze. Of course I have always known, said Naruto, blinking obliviously to the fact that it was no easy feat to realize there were ANBU trailing you without any shinobi training. How? Asked the Hokage in a dumbstruck voice. I kind of felt them, I dunno, just kinda knew there were super people following me, replied the blonde with a broad grin as he rubbed the back of his head. Sighed Sarutobi as he chewed on his pipe. Can you wait outside for a few minutes while I decide what to do? He asked the blonde, who nodded and trotted out of the room before closing the door behind him with a soft click. What do you think of that? Asked the Sandaime as he looked at the four shinobis who still couldn't believe the blonde's words, but then again he couldn't be lying about something like that either. Hokage-sama, there was an attempt on his life today, tomorrow people might succeed. I suggest that he be given training from now so that he can protect himself, from the lowest threats at least, suggested Kakashi. At the age of 5, I don't think his coils are developed enough, said the Sandaime, but was interrupted again by Kakashi. Hokage-sama, he is an Uzumaki after all, said the silver-haired teen, emphasizing on the boy's last name, and the Sandaime understood immediately what the Hitaki was indicating towards. What are we to do with those two, Hokage-sama? Asked Kurane as she pointed at the still unconscious Chuyunins on the floor. Take them down to the ANBU cells for interrogation and run a trial for the attempted murder of a citizen, said the Sandaime curtly as he tried to think of a solution to the current problem that was Uzumaki Naruto. I knew he would be attacked, but before he even turned 5. I didn't believe it would be this soon. Maybe Kakashi is right, he should be given training to protect himself, but if his parents are any indication, he has the ability to make a fine shinobi of the village. The door closed behind him again as the shinobis went to follow his orders. I cannot just ask a Jounin to take up his training, and Jiraiya and Tsunade are unreachable right now, muttered the Hokage darkly. It naturally fell on him to train the boy, as the only other option was Danzo, and he would not have Naruto turn into one of his mindless drones no matter what. I knew I was too old for this job, said the Sandaime with a sigh as he opened his door and called Naruto back into his office. So what do you want, old man? Asked the young Jinchuriki as he came back into the office. Say, Naruto, how would you like to become one of those super people as you call them? Asked the Hokage with raised eyebrows. Did he even have to ask? Council meeting next day. The members of the civilian council along with the clan heads were sitting in the council conference room for the last few minutes waiting for the Hokage to come and state the urgent business. It was the day of the celebration and many of the clan heads were needed at their respective compounds/homes for their families and clan members. With the recent events of Konoha, along with the massacre of the entire Uchiha clan less than a year ago, this was one of the most joyous days that the hidden village had seen in a long time. The civilian side was also getting edgy, as this was the day when people got to enjoy nice shows and epic displays of battle that tries to imitate the fight between the Sandaime Hokage going against the fearsome Kyuubi in the ultimate showdown of shinobi versus tailed beast, and not to mention all the things that would be on sale today. Then, finally, after several more minutes of tense waiting, the Hokage walked through the door in all his glory, as the eventful day demanded. Hayashi Hyuga stood up and with a small yet respectful bow asked Hokage-sama, what is so important that you had to call an urgent meeting today of all days? The Hyuga patriarch not only represented his clan, but in the council, he was also the spokesman for all the clans, and he had asked the most obvious question that was on everyone's mind. Well, Hayashi-san, council members, this is rather important because you all have been asking me to do this after my time with the Sunins were done, said the Sandaime, effectively bringing everyone's full attention on him. So are we to take that you are going to be taking a new genin team? Asked Danzo, a light of mirth dancing in his eyes. Oh no, that would be too troublesome, replied the Sandaime, and the Nara clan head, Shikaku, started to chuckle but stopped as he realized the glares that he was getting from the other clan members. No, I have decided to take an apprentice, said the Hokage, and everyone once again put their full attention on him. It wasn't unheard of, the Sandaime himself was the apprentice of both Shadame and Nidaime. The Yondaime was building quite an apprentice out of Kakashi Hatake, and he might have become the legacy of the Yellow Flash had he not sacrificed himself for Konoha exactly 5 years ago. Danzo on the other hand was staring at the Hokage with a malicious glint on his eyes. Who had Sarutobi taken on as his apprentice? Someone as virtuous and loyal as him, or perhaps someone just as temperamental and love-abiding as the Shadame was? And who is it? Asked a civilian member excitedly. Is it the last surviving Uchiha, Sasuke? Asked one with gleaming eyes. Or maybe the Hyuga prodigy Neji? Asked another one. I heard that he has already activated his Byakugan. Hey, it might be Hatake Kakashi, suggested the third civilian member, as everyone knew that he was a genius, a prodigy, one of the only bearers of the Sharingan other than Sasuke Uchiha, trained by the famous Yellow Flash, and had more than 1,000 jutsus in his arsenal. Yes, a logical choice indeed. Please calm down everyone, said the Sandaime in a little louder than normal voice. Everyone quieted down to look at the Hokage with expectant eyes. All the choices that you suggested were good, but I have already made my decision, and it is none of the ones that were suggested here, said the Hokage, and a pregnant silence settled over the council room. So who is it? Asked Koharu, a little impatiently. Naruto Uzumaki, said the Hokage, and the shocked silence that followed, along with the expression on the faces of the council members, was priceless. Hiruzen only wished that he had a camera, as inside he was rolling on the ground laughing like a mad kid. Absolutely not, there is no way the council will allow you to train the Kyuubi vessel in the arts of a shinobi. Hiruzen, do you have any idea of the consequences of this proposal? Shouted Homura, forgetting all etiquette at the ludicrous idea of his old teammate. Why? Asked Sarutobi quietly as he waited for Homura to explain why a jinchuriki of a village was being denied training as a shinobi. Because before Homura could give a reasonable explanation, a civilian spoke up, ruining the perfect chance the council had to deny Naruto's training with his arrogance and total disregard for Sandaime's law because of Naruto's jinchuriki status. Because he is the demon child, came a shout from a civilian council member who was standing there, grinning like a fool as he thought that his explanation was enough to deny the Hokage's choice in training the container of the Kyuubi. Immediately 2A and BU were at his side, and they dragged the surprised but thrashing and screaming former member of Konoha Council to the A and BU dungeons. It is true that a jinchuriki is made to be a weapon of the village, said Danzo in his grating voice as he stood up. But why make him an apprentice and give him an identity? Give him to me, and I will reform him into a perfect, obedient shinobi of the village. The cane-wielding warhawk gave his fake smile to the Sandaime as a smug expression was painted on his face, or however much of his face was visible. "You mean you want to train him like one of your root members?" asked Sarutobi, playing his own card to disregard the credibility of the warhawk. The smug look and the fake smile instantly disappeared from Danzo's face as he realized just how quickly his wily old friend had undermined his position in the council. The Root, as he called it, was a rogue organization in the Black Ops division of Konoha's forces that followed Danzo and Danzo alone. They were the ones that got their hands dirty to keep the village and its secrets safe. Whether the methods were unconventional or not did not matter to them. They were usually hated by the clan members because they believed that the end never justifies the means, but if the Root were not there, the village would not be as safe as it was. Still, people ignored its existence or never spoke of it openly, as that division never officially exists in the Konoha shinobi records, and they never will be, as it was only in the best interest of everyone. It is still something that many in this village will not agree to. Do you realize that if this becomes public news, they could break out in a panic-stricken riot? There might be people who will leave this village because they will think Konoha too unsafe to reside in because of the Kyuubi growing stronger with each passing day. Sorry Hokage, but in this decision you will find very little support, said Koharu, looking smug as ever, but at least the tone was calm and reverent. Oh, don't worry about this getting out, because as of now I am declaring this an S-class secret that Naruto's apprenticeship is not to leave this room. If it does, that person will die before he can utter a single word about this. Because I will place restraining seals on each and every member regarding this information, Hiruzen commanded, and instantly 2 seal makers entered the room and placed restraining seals to everybody in the chamber. Even though they protested and argued with the Hokage, the clan heads were able to get this done without using too much force against the civilian members. Now, let us vote on this issue, and please feel free to discuss this amongst yourselves. I do not want this kind of decision being done in any kind of hurry. I want all the votes in by the end of the hour." With that, the Hokage walked out of the council chamber. The clan members discussed this among themselves after the little confrontation, and the majority came out to be in the favor of the Sandaime Hokage. The civilian side took more time but came out against the decision that the Hokage had made, and it was time for the Hokage to officially vote to finalize the decision. The civilians were muttering darkly since the Hokage had already made his decision and quickly announced it, making it clear that Naruto would become the 4th student of the 3rd Hokage. The council dispersed quickly after that as the people left to celebrate, and in some cases mourn, the Yondaime Hokage's most noble sacrifice.